Well, hello everyone. We're going to do another Gelli Plate technique today. We're going to use stencils. And I'm just going to do a couple of pulls because there's a couple of ways you can use your stencils. And I'm using these big stencils just so that you can see. Now, that blue one is not one of my favorites because it's a little thin. I like a little bit heavier stencil, but it's one I have, and I'm sure I've had it in my stash a long time and I've not used it. Uh, we're going to do our stencils a couple of ways today. It's always good to have some um, paper that is already printed on so that you can use to pick up the stencil. You can use backgrounds ahead of time, different things like that. So um, that's why I was showing you those kind of scrappy papers. We're just going to get some paint out and put it on the Gelli plate. Now, a lot of times when I Gelli plate, I use multiple colors on the plate at one time. You do not have to. You do have to think a little bit because when you mix those colors together, they can get muddy. And sometimes I happen to like the muddy look too. I like the grunge and I like the mud. So that's something that you have to make up your mind about whether or not you want multiple colors on there or just one color. Um, just because this is my way does not mean that there aren't a thousand other ways to do this. The Gelli plate is one of those things where you can just do all kinds of fun things. Deli paper happens to work real well to pick up the design when you have put the stencil over your paint. And you see there that background, now I have a sort of a finished print. Now, normally I would not try to move my plate and do this. I would have taken the paint off my stencil off to the side. But when you put the paint down and then have the stencil, you've got quite a lot of paint on your stencil. So I like to pick that paint up and use it as a layer in my Gelli plate prints. I probably would have gone over those with something else later as soon as they got dry. So here's my Gelli plate, and we've got to get it dry. This is one of those techniques where you have to get things dry. And there was a huge amount of paint on there. I just decided to take it off a little bit. This little fan works great. Remember not to try to dry your Gelli plate with something hot. Do not use a hair dryer and blow hot air on your Gelli plate. It's not good for them. So I have got a couple of colors of paint here. I love turquoise and lime together. And it's a reasonably thin layer. And up until now, I haven't used the whole plate, and I do this quite a bit. I use the whole plate and I make sections on my Gelli plate. I sort of like patchwork prints together. But there you go. That is one way to use your stencil on your Gelli plate. Now that mess up there is going to cause issues with the next pull, and quite frankly, I would normally just do whatever I wanted right over the top. I wouldn't bother trying to clean it off, but it's hard to show you technique with something on my plate like that. So I'm just doing a pull off print. And there again, those are backgrounds that you can use on behind other techniques. And I happen to like that kind of a look. But I wanted to do the next stencil and I wanted to show you the way it works. So I've cleaned my plate simply with a baby wipe. I just wiped it off. Now, this is a number stencil, and you need to remember when you do numbers or letters that when they go down on the plate, on the plate, they need to be backwards so that when you pick up your print, they're forwards. So this time we did not put paint on the plate, we put paint on our stencil. And I am just rolling paint on top of the stencil until it goes into the little spaces. And I specifically picked something where I had to put my stencil down backwards so that you would realize that it can be done. You just have to put the stencil upside down. Now, I did not show you, but I'm going to take that stencil, I guess you can see it off there to the left, and I'm just pushing it down on a piece of scrap paper so that the paint comes off of it. Now then, I am bad about this, but I don't usually clean my stencils. It doesn't bother me that they have paint on them. If it bothers you that they have paint on them, I highly suggest you keep a tub of water next to you where you can slip them in so that they can soak. The acrylic paint will come off of them. You just have to soak them a bit. And this is our second pull on this. So after the paint dried from the stencil, I just layer to layer paint over and I'm going to pull it up. Stencils are amazing when you use them on a Gelli plate. They have a lot of possibilities, but there's that couple of ways you can use them. And there we have pulled a second way. So one way is to put the paint on the plate, pull some of the paint off from where the stencil is open. The second way is to put the paint through the stencil onto the plate. Excuse me. Now, remember that when you pull your print, your letters will be right side up as long as you lay your stencil down backwards. And guys, this is just a really quick, simple technique. I figured most of you have used stencils on your Gelli plate before, but I am doing this series for the people that I hear say, I just don't know what to do with my Gelli plate. I don't know how to use it. I hear this all the time, and the Gelli plate's a lot of fun. You can get so many different kinds of prints and so many different kinds of paper for your artwork, whether it be to put in a journal or to create pages with. Anyways, guys, this is all for today. Go have fun. Make some art. Bye-bye.